Hi, so I'm going to talk a little bit about this website, Artificium or Artificium, and just kind of like what works and what doesn't. I'll have kind of a little bit of a write-up to reference at the end, but I think it's more efficient to click through this as opposed to just like taking a ton of screenshots and putting them in a PowerPoint. So I'm going to kind of go through like the navigation design criteria. So we have like navigation design, information architecture, visual cues and signifiers, feedback and affordances, search and filtering, and contextual guidance, and just say, where this website succeeds, where it falls a little short, and can be improved upon. So the very first thing is just talking about navigation design and creating intuitive navigation structures. That's like links, navigation elements. I think this is a major part of this website that falls super short, is that up here, just looking at this nav bar, we have some interesting navigation here, which this seems to be more something that could just be at the bottom of a home page. These are mostly dead links. Like all of this seems like it could just be at like a bottom of a page or maybe in an about section and not necessarily a drop down because it kind of differs from these other ones. So it's just a little bit odd. And then we have this initial mechanism of choosing for learners, for instructions, for instructors, or for content creators. And I've noticed it does bring you to like a little bit of different suggestions, but ultimately you end up in the same place. And then you have no indication of which one you clicked. There's no difference really in any of them. I think it'd be way more effective to either show the user a difference, and depending on what you click, you only have that in your nav bar, or to just like give more of a rundown and a blurb, because right now it's super confusing where it goes. You also have no chance to really like backtrack in case you knew what you missed. Like to see what you missed, you would have to do back a couple times. And then as far as I know, content creators like is very vague. I don't really even know what that does. So I think the information architecture section is the portion of this that's actually really successful. So, if it's not broken, don't fix it. I think it's great how it's sorted. I do have an issue with the scrolling mechanism, and that like, see right there with data mining, you just scroll right past it. So that needs to be recalibrated a little bit. I love that you can click on this and get like a little bit of a blurb. And then I think here is really great. I actually really like the new window opening, especially for what this website would be used for, which is like studying. And like I usually have many windows open for that. So if we're talking about visual cues and signifiers, like going back, I do think this is a place where we fall short. Luckily, we have these visual cues when you scroll, like you have what's selected. I think we could use a purple link when something's been visited. Obviously, I think this website's like a little bit outdated, so I don't think all the links are exactly lined up, but like especially if you're going through and studying, especially in like one like machine learning like this, you'd want a little indicator that you've been there. Luckily, we have this feedback that you can click. We have like a little bit of a highlight here. It's not super noticeable, but it does what it's meant to do. I do think that it's not super effective with differentiating between these different categories, especially when they have really vague names that you might not know what they mean, like shorts and quicks. I'll talk about my suggestions a little bit later, but you can't really tell that you're in any different section other than like the headline, which I don't think is great. Part of the Benyon reading says too much similarity between different areas of an environment can cause confusion. So I would probably add like some video thumbnails for videos, or even like, I don't know, shorten a few of these sections. Like no one knows what shorts are, no one knows what quicks are or stacks. I think it could be a little bit more succinct in the naming, because that's also part of navigation. Like if I'm looking for a video, I wouldn't know whether to look at shorts or quicks or stacks or what. And like courses and assignments, like they could be equal. This could be the same thing. Again, with feedback and affordances, we don't really have any purple links. We don't even have any views. You do get a new window opening up, which is great. You do get the progression here, which is great. I think all that's like very effective. Again, if it's not broken, don't fix it. I think the progression from different categories works well. I'm assuming this is chapters. Part of me is wondering how this is formatted. Like what's 1 and 3 and 5 based on are these chapters. If they're chapters, it makes a little bit more sense, but if not, I would probably change these to an alphabetical order just so it's a little bit easier to navigate and find something that you might not be able to find otherwise. I'll add on a few more suggestions later. Search and filtering. I do think the searching is adequate, like can look up whatever you need. I don't love the search bar. Like I always have an issue with like this enhanced by Google one because I feel like it just feeds me ads. Even when you have an ad blocker on, like I feel like you have to go through so many dense ads to get here, but also I don't know the alternative of like a search plugin like that. And then contextual guidance, if we're talking about contextual guidance, I just think that a lot of that has to do with like the naming conventions on this. I don't think it's incredibly effective. I think they could definitely be improved. And so then I'm going to transition a little bit to my ideas for improvement. So I think it's best if like the user opens up this page just like a little bit more visually interesting. So we have our title really big, and then we have options for the learner, educator, and creator. And I just think a blurb that has a little more detail about what each one gets can make a difference. We want to make sure to have a function to go back and forth between learner, educator, and creator, because it's not a login. It's not exclusive content. You should be able to see what other people are seeing, especially as an educator. So then you would press this button, and for this particular learner one, you would progress into this screen. I like the idea of like a color feedback for this, like just kind of doesn't have to be, but I like it. If you see, once you click on learner, it kind of takes note up in the top search bar, nav bar, but you also have a drop down. So if you decide you don't want to be a learner, you can be a teacher, a creator, and then you also have a refined menu. So you only have like the specific ones that are relevant to learners in this case. And so if you wanted to see the teacher ones, you would have to drop down to the teacher, and then they would get switched up a little bit. I like the selection bar. The selection bar would say the same, maybe alphabetical order this time. I like a larger font and less verbose, and like our little opening statement. I added on a little filter method. So that's like you could filter by how many videos, you could filter by alphabetical order of videos, you could filter by video length if you're trying to get just something short in. I want to have a color change on the hyperlinks. I want to keep this clicking to expand idea. And I also thought that we could rename shorts to minis and couple them with the module, because right now minis kind of exist in their own space. There's a whole different menu for them. When I think that, maybe I want to learn a little bit more about Scrum or R or something, I can just go in, I can look at and see if there's a mini coupled with it instead of going into the whole tab, or say I just want to review after I've watched all the long videos, I can just check in with the mini. Yeah, and so then here we have maybe an instructor page. I don't know exactly which ones are instructors. It's honestly really hard to differentiate, the website's very unclear. You can see we have a color scheme difference, so the user can get their bearings and realize that they're in the instructor tab. Again, the selection bar stays the same. We have a filter method. So we could maybe get rid of sections where there are no videos or no content. And then I would like these videos to have thumbnails, just so you can tell when you're in the video page, it's a little bit different from when you're in lessons or courses or stacks or whatever. And I also like the video stacking as opposed to scrolling, just because I feel like with an academic context, it's just a little more clean, less moving parts. I think that the big success of this individual, the initial website, is that it's so consistent with its visual identity, that it's very simple, legible, right to the point. And so I just think cleaning that up and making the wayfinding a little bit easier would ultimately make it a success. So yeah, get rid of the useless navigation. We can have the end button now still as the home, just like it was. That's pre-existing mental model. I just think the color change also makes it a little more visually interesting, but in a very clean way. Yeah, I think that's about it. Bye-bye.